What happened that lifted you out of depression? Getting out of a shit job was the biggest thing. The biggest trigger for my real lows was shitty, sexually harassing customers and a shitty boss who took his marital problems out on me. From there, I had time to write more and realized that writing really helped when I felt down. Best part? I've become a career writer. My latest novel came out last week.
It sounds like a tough situation. Dealing with harassment and a bad boss is draining. It's good you found an outlet in writing. Turning those experiences into something productive is impressive. Becoming a career writer must feel fulfilling, especially with a new novel out. It's nice to see how you use those lows to create something positive. That's a solid way to move forward.
Started working on a better future instead of focusing on my failures in the past and present. Someone told me I was using my depression as a crutch and excuse for why I wasn't where I wanted to be. It was my get out of responsibility card. It was my reason I didn't have to change because I had a mental illness label and an RX that made it okay to be passive and self-hating. It was my justification for every decision I made to not do something to better myself. I can't. I'm manic depressive. That comment about it being my crutch was sobering. I picked myself up, dusted myself off, and made strides toward my dreams again. Found healthier community, applied to college, and started 4 months later. Paid my bills on time, stopped comparing myself to whom I should have been, and focused on who I wanted to become. Got more exercise. I basically surprised myself with my own awesomeness, one day at a time. But it took some tough love from a friend for me to realize I was hiding behind it and giving it too much power.
It's interesting how a friend's tough love can shift your perspective. I remember a similar moment when someone pointed out my excuses. It made me rethink my approach to challenges. I had been stuck in my own loop, just like you. Once I started focusing on what I could change, things gradually improved. It's nice to see how you took that leap. Small steps definitely add up.
It's usually a joke on Reddit, but deleted Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all other social media. Took more walks, cut off toxic friends, moved to a new city. Is depression something people can recover from? With absolutely no scientific backing to this other than my own experience. I'm going to say yes, but that it's not something necessarily dependent on the depressed person trying hard enough. And there's a lot of lucky timing involved. I think I'm only lucky that changing my circumstances at the time that I did helped me out of depression. If I had done it later or earlier, I don't know that things would have turned out as well.
It's interesting how changing your environment can have such an impact. I had a friend who moved to a different city and cut ties with negative influences. Over time, I saw them become more settled and happier. It seems like sometimes the right changes at the right time can spark a shift in mindset. Recovery isn't a straight path, and luck plays a role, but making those choices can definitely help.
I started talking. I had counseling and therapy. I started to accept the things I couldn't change, and the things that had happened weren't my fault. I started to love myself and enjoy my own company. I told myself, you're a good person and people are lucky to have you as a friend because it's true. I stopped relying on people. I started sticking up for myself. I know I'm so much better because I don't rely on having a partner. It doesn't justify my self-worth. Recently broke up with my boyfriend who I just moved in with, and 2 years ago, I'd have been distraught. I'd have died, or felt like dying. Now all I am is relieved and happy. I don't need to stay in a relationship which doesn't fulfill my needs out of fear of loneliness. I don't need to stay friends with shitty people because I worry no one will like me. I'm a fucking awesome person. It took a long time to get here, but Jesus, it's been worth it. I go to sleep happy and excited at the day I've got ahead. Instead of crying myself to sleep wishing I could just die in my sleep, I look forward to life.
That's a solid journey. A lot of people get caught up in relationships or friendship dynamics that don't serve them. It takes time to realize your own worth. Finding peace and happiness in yourself is important. It sounds like you found your strength and learned to be content alone. It's great to hear you're looking forward to life now. That kind of mindset shift can really change everything.
I wouldn't say that I'm recovered yet, but I'm on the way. 1 year ago, I was at a job I hated, living with my parents and abusive brother. Now I'm in my first week at a salary job with benefits and awesome coworkers. I'm buying a car this weekend and looking to move out of my toxic family environment in April. It starts as slow steps. I can't say what the first couple were for me, but the big one was starting an antidepressant that actually works for me. That was in June of last year. Alan Kruger said, "Once a small win has been accomplished, forces are set in motion that favor another small win." That has been exactly what has happened with me. I've focused on small steps, and finally, a few weeks ago, I got a big win with this job offer.
It sounds like you've made some solid moves toward a better life. I get how tough it can be when you're stuck in a bad situation. Starting an antidepressant was a big deal for me too. It helped shift things. It's cool to see you getting a job you like and planning to move out. Small wins really do pile up, and it looks like you're on the right track.
Recovery. No control. Massively. I feel like my depression will always be there, looming like a shadow, but I know how to control it nowadays without resorting to some of my more harmful techniques of old. It's like in a horror movie when there is a shadow like Spectre looming over the protagonist. When I was at the worst of my depression, that Spectre would have been all over me, but now I have ways to make it dissipate. TLDR. You will always have days where you feel close to your worst, but you can beat those days.
It's relatable. Everyone has that looming feeling sometimes. I had a friend who dealt with similar issues. He often talked about how he learned to cope over time. Instead of letting it drown him, he found what helped him push through those tough days. He'd read, exercise, or just go for long walks. Slowly, the shadows became less overwhelming. It's about finding those tools you can rely on when things get heavy.
Seriously, I can't advise this for most people, but I ate shrooms. 2 weeks later, I tried LSD. After LSD, I decided to stop smoking marijuana and really focus on my life. Almost immediately, it felt as though I was a new person. Worked for me, and I am now beginning my master's degree in accounting. Life is certainly strange.
That's an interesting journey. It sounds like you experienced some significant shifts. Trying psychedelics led you to making big changes in your life. It's not something everyone would choose, but it worked out for you. Now you're pursuing an advanced degree, which is pretty impressive. Life can take unexpected turns.
Suffered from depression for years now. The only thing that lifts me out of it or restores some sort of self-worth is having a partner/someone to share my life with and look after. I know this isn't healthy. I'm just not the hump and dump kind of guy. I just work better in a unit, you know? This doesn't mean I go and start relationships with anyone. Eve's been single for 6 months now, and I can't wait to find someone that likes me for me and will get to enjoy me as a partner. Making someone else happy simply makes me happy.
It's tough dealing with depression. I get where you're coming from about needing that connection. Having someone to care for can definitely change the way you feel. Being in a relationship can bring a sense of purpose. It's good to take your time finding someone who appreciates you. Focusing on making someone else happy sounds healthy in the right context. Hope you find that connection again.
I had lingering depression since I was about 13 because I didn't like being a boy. But then, after college, I got into a terrible destructive relationship that left me feeling hollow. And then I lost my father, and for the next year and a half, I was basically a shell of myself. I cut out people, I gained a ton of weight. In November 2013, at a friend's persistence, I accepted my own gender dysphoria and started to embrace the idea of transitioning. I started coming out to friends and rebuilding bridges I lost all the weight I gained, and then some. 2014 was the first year I ever felt truly happy with myself, my life, and my place in this world.
It's tough to carry that kind of weight around, both literally and emotionally. Finding that turning point is huge. It's good to hear that a friend stuck by you and helped you accept who you are. Rebuilding connections and taking care of yourself is no small feat. 2014 sounds like it was a big year for you, finally feeling content. It's all about taking those steps when you're ready.
1. A regular sleep schedule, even on weekends, did more for me than therapy or antidepressants. This is hard. 2. A job I like with a positive environment. 3. Hobbies. For me, it's reading and RPGs. It took 3 months of commitment to expand my social circle and have fun with RPGs. 4. Knowing when to get help. It's hard to describe, but if I feel myself sliding in a major depression, I do not hesitate to get back on antidepressants and therapy. None of these are easy, and they all take a few months to work. But if you're committed to overcoming sadness, it's worth it.
Yeah, I get that. A regular sleep schedule really does make a difference. It can help clear your mind. Finding a job you enjoy is huge too. It really lifts your mood. Hobbies are a good way to meet people and have fun, especially RPGs. And knowing when to reach out for help shows strength. It's tough, but sticking to it pays off. It's all about taking small steps.
I think what helped me a lot was being there when my little sister was born, 18 years gap. To hold that little baby in my arms and watch her grow, and she was pure and innocent in her laugh. The way she tells me she loves me, and that she misses me when I haven't seen her in a while. She helped me more than anyone, and she doesn't even know it.
That sounds like a nice experience. Having a sibling with such a big age gap can be special. It's interesting how a little one can change your perspective on life. Just seeing her grow and enjoying those simple moments can really impact you. The bond you share seems genuine, and it's cool how she offers you support without even realizing it. It's one of those things that can stick with you.
Lifting weights. The brain had no chance to interfere me with negative thoughts when all focus was on lifting. Later I realized I had built something for me, and only me a stronger body. This boosted my confidence and self-esteem, which pulled me even further out of the dark. Now it's all positive and forward, baby. Let's all build our own success, TL. Lifting weights.
I started lifting weights to clear my mind. When I focused on the lifts, there was no space for any negative thoughts. Over time, I noticed I was getting stronger, and that made a difference in how I felt about myself. Confidence grew, and it pulled me out of some rough spots. It's been a journey of building something for myself, and now it's about moving forward.
Exercise and vitamins, particularly vitamin B12 and vitamin D. For exercise, I like cycling. There are some social rides that I go on. There are similar groups for pretty much every form of exercise, running, yoga, soccer, etc. It's a good chance to have social interaction, which helps keep me out of depression. When you're severely depressed, you probably won't interact with others much, if at all. But you have to force yourself to go through the motions at first. Yes, you can recover from depression, but it's unlikely that you will be cured of it. There's a common misconception among people who do not suffer from depression that something must have recently happened to you make you depressed, and something else must happen to you that will solve it. Depression is not a rational response cycle. It is a chronic mental illness. The resolutions to depression are chemical and internal. I have also tried therapy and antidepressants and found them to be of limited use to me.
It's interesting how exercise can be a lifeline. I remember a friend who struggled with depression. He started cycling with a group. At first, it was tough for him to engage, but gradually he found connection through those rides. It's a reminder that recovery isn't a straight line. Even with therapy and meds, the journey can be long and complex. It's more about managing it than finding a quick fix.
A long time and a lot of hard fucking work. A combination of therapy, AA, finding the right antidepressant, and working on myself, i.e., taking steps to actually become the person I wanted to be. Finally admitting that I'm better on medication was a big step for me. I resisted meds for years. Depression, much like alcoholism, is not something that ever really gets cured. You don't exactly recover, you just learn how to manage it. You learn to recognize when you're spiraling and do something about it. These days, my baseline emotional state is way higher than it used to be. I'm in a healthy relationship for maybe the first time in my life, and it helps to have someone who is supportive and will listen when I need to talk and be understanding.
It sounds like quite a journey. Getting help can be tough, especially when it comes to admitting you need medication. It's a big step to accept that managing mental health is a lifelong process. Being in a supportive relationship seems to make a difference too. Having someone who listens and understands can really change things. Glad to hear that your emotional state has improved.
Social support, therapy, and a lot of introspection helped me get to a better place. The truth is, depression never goes away. You don't recover from depression, you go into remission. It might never come back, but anyone who has been depressed, and not because of a loss or trauma, has the chance to get depressed again. Most of us have it come back at some point, even if it is not as bad or as prevalent. I have the benefit of being both a therapist and a person who suffers from depression, if you can call that a benefit. So I've had a chance to see this from a few angles. Social support is the most important thing you can have.
It's interesting how support can make a difference. I have a friend who struggled with depression too. She kept saying that having someone to talk to really helped her through tough times. We'd often just hang out, no pressure to talk about feelings, but it made a difference. Understanding that depression might come and go helps you manage it better. Having a solid support system is key for many.
I've gone from being depressed to bipolar. For me, what changed was two things. I learned that I should stop caring about what the world thinks of me. I am myself, and I can do far worse to others than what they will do to me. The second thing was admitting I was depressed and trying to seek help from friends. I lost some doing this, but the ones who stayed and helped me are precious to me. They helped me get through it. In all honesty, I would have killed myself by now without them. Even internet friends help.
It's tough to navigate those feelings. Realizing that you can't please everyone is a big step. Reaching out for help can be hard, and losing friends during that process sucks. But it's good you found support from those who matter. Those connections, whether online or in person, can really make a difference. It's okay to lean on others. We all need that sometimes. Glad you found some people who care.
I was younger when I was seriously depressed. I got really bad around 12 or 13. My dad and stepmother were the primary cause of it. They were verbally abusive, and I had no way of getting help. They knew I was struggling, and even when I started self-harming, they wouldn't let me talk to anyone about it because they thought it would make them look like bad parents. I only recently fully got over it. I'm 20 now. It took a long time for me to stop hating myself, but what helped me the most were my friends and my boyfriend. They were always there for me to get me out of my house and reassure me that I'm not worthless.
It's tough dealing with that kind of situation when you're young. It's good to hear you found support from friends and your boyfriend. Sometimes, just having people who see your worth can make a big difference. Everyone needs someone to lean on during hard times. It took a while, but it sounds like you've come a long way and have a solid support system now. That's important for moving forward.
Wellbutrin. I did a lot of work on my own too, but medication is what got me to the point where I could do that. Edit. I have more time now, and I just wanted to reiterate how grateful I am for medication. It absolutely gave me my life back. I went from being completely hopeless and too depressed to leave my hospital bed to actually being interested in life. After I got out of the hospital, I kept thinking, wow, I feel like a real person. I did a partial hospitalization program after I got out, and once the depression had let up a bit, then I finally started being able to make sense of what I was learning in therapy. With a lot of hard work there on my end, I can honestly say I am not at all depressed anymore, and am back to being a functional human being. I was severely, chronically depressed and suicidal. My previous doctor had told my family he expected me to kill myself within a year or so. This feels like a miracle, and I am incredibly appreciative of every moment now.
It's something else how medication can turn things around. I know someone who went through a similar struggle. They were in a dark place, locked in their thoughts, just trying to get by. But then, after some time on meds, they started to feel more like themselves again. It's wild how a little chemical change can lead to a fresh perspective on life. Now they're doing well, and it's nice to see that shift.
Medication and talk therapy, specifically for me, cognitive behavioral therapy, gave me the tools to take my life back and start to claw back into the real world. Most days I still wake up thinking it is useless to get out of bed. I'm a sack of crap, and just laying here doing nothing is the best choice. But 10 minutes later, I am pouring a cup of coffee and starting my daily reflections. The morning routine is my most powerful tool in living the life I desire. It didn't hurt to change careers from something I thought others wanted me to do to pursuing the job I wanted to do. So take the meds, do the therapy, and work out a routine of self-reflection and self-improvement, including physical activity. I don't think I will ever not have some thoughts that are intrusive and full of crap and not have to fight the apathy that my depression brings. But I can have a life that is worthwhile and satisfying even if it is not always yummy and fun.
It's interesting how routines can anchor us. I get that feeling of waking up not wanting to move. But having those small rituals, like coffee and reflections, can shift the day. Changing careers to follow what you really want also makes a difference. It's tough with intrusive thoughts, but acknowledging them helps. It's about finding value in daily moments, even when everything feels heavy. It's a journey, not always easy.
Medication initially, but more than that, I had an excellent therapist. I was also in treatment for an eating disorder at the time, so we worked on managing those behaviors, identifying potentially triggering situations, etc. That helped a lot in the first few weeks and months. The work we did later was kind of skills-based, with lots of mindfulness and acceptance practice, and developing better communication skills that ended up helping a lot of my relationships in my life. However, these things still took time and were frustrating. There were times when I wanted to terminate with her because I didn't feel better as quickly as I thought I should. Understanding that this type of progress takes weeks and months, and having patience was critical to my recovery.
It's interesting how therapy can really shape your perspective. I had a friend who struggled with similar issues. She mentioned how frustrating it was not to see immediate results. But over time, she learned to appreciate the small improvements. It was all about being patient and sticking with it, even when it felt tough. The skills she picked up helped her a lot in her relationships too. It's a journey, no doubt.
I've experienced a lot of depression, especially during my teens and early 20s. I've been far better in the last 6 months by realizing that my depression comes from anxiety and dealing with stress badly. So I've focused on those causes, which has helped with the symptom of depression. Medication helps, anti-anxiety rather than antidepressants, no SSRIs. Exercise helps, being creative helps, but most of all, and I kind of can't believe it myself, meditation. Meditation has literally changed my life. I'm happier, more focused, more creative. And it is only getting better the more I do it.
It sounds like you've been on quite a journey. It's good to hear that you found ways to manage your anxiety and stress. Meditation really can make a difference for many people. It's interesting how simple practices can lead to significant changes. It seems like you're finding a path that works for you, which is important. Glad to see you are feeling happier and more focused.
This was my path. Searching for help dash, talking to a psychologist dash, taking antidepressants for 2 years dash, getting more motivation to search for new things slash hobbies dash, started watching One Piece for the first time dash, watched the whole series, still do dash, gain a lot of inspiration and courage from the story dash, gain new friends and hobbies dash, more motivation to continue living dash. Realizing that you're not depressed anymore.
That's a solid journey. It's interesting how seeking help can take you to unexpected places. Finding a series like One Piece can really change your outlook. The inspiration and friendships that come from it can be life-changing. It's cool to see how new interests can lead to a fresh perspective. Glad to hear that you're feeling better and finding motivation. Sometimes, the simplest things can have the biggest impact.
Spent more time with old friends, made new great friends, and running. I started running when I broke up with a long-term girlfriend, and it turned from literally zero running experience to running a marathon in a year. It pulled me out of depression, gave me my new favorite hobby, and has kept me in fantastic shape.
It's cool how running became your outlet after that breakup. I remember a time when a friend of mine went through something similar. He took up cycling and, like you, transformed his life. It really shows how hobbies can turn tough times around and connect you with people. It's good to hear it led to new friendships and a healthier lifestyle. It's a refreshing change for sure.
I've been through therapy and SSRI drugs, none of which helped. What did? 2 things. I became a skydiver in 1998. Massive doses of endorphins, along with making close friends and accomplishing things that flat out were not easy and not everyone can do, all gave me a sense of my own worth. The second thing was the unexpected death of my narcissistic mother, who would go to great lengths to downplay any accomplishment she did not approve of, which was basically everything, as anything I accomplished got me out from under her thumb. She's been dead for 3 years, and it's been the best 3 years of my life.
It sounds like you've gone through a lot. It's interesting how skydiving gave you that rush and sense of achievement, helping you connect with others. Losing a toxic relationship can be tough, but it seems it really opened up a new chapter for you. Sometimes, unexpected events drive significant changes in our lives, pushing us toward a better path. It's good to hear you've found some peace since then.
I cut out alcohol. A year's worth of therapy and medication put a band-aid on my depression, but booze made it impossible to fully heal. They fed each other, my depression and alcohol, and the self-perpetuating cycle was vicious. Once I decided to quit drinking, the clarity was almost instantaneous. No more medication, therapy sessions are much less frequent, and really only for maintenance.
It's interesting how cutting out something like alcohol can change your perspective. I had a friend who went through a similar phase. He realized that his late-night drinking was just making him feel worse. Once he stopped, he found it easier to think clearly and handle his emotions. It didn't happen overnight, but slowly, things started to improve for him. It's surprising how much of an impact one decision can make.
Medication. I really had quite a good life at the time, and no reason to be sad. It was purely medical. A few weeks after I started on meds, I realized that for the first time in my life, I hadn't been gripped with terror, that I'd forgotten something life-threateningly important that day and sat in a panic trying to figure it out. And that for the first time since I was 12, I felt like life had a point.
That sounds like a big change. It's interesting how medication can shift our perspectives. I've seen friends go through similar experiences, feeling lighter and more at ease with themselves. It's like they finally found a way to breathe. Those moments can really show the impact of our mental health on our daily lives. Just happy to hear you were able to find that sense of purpose again.
I have dealt with moderate to severe depression since I was about 10-year-old. It started when I was hit by a car and was wheelchair-bound for a couple of years, which triggered some developmental and psychological issues. I'd be lying if I said that I have conquered my depression, but I have learned to feel when it comes on what triggers my depression spiral. The only thing that really does work, I've tried SSRIs and therapy, is exercise. When I feel the weight of sadness starting to creep on me, I know it's time to start doing some exercise. For myself, I have to work out at least once every 3 to 4 days. Otherwise, I notice the world gets a bit darker and I feel myself sinking into negativity. Start working out. Even if you feel like shit and can't fathom it, do it.
It sounds tough dealing with depression since such a young age. I can relate to that sense of looming darkness. For me, exercise has also been a game changer. Just getting outside for a walk can shift my mindset. It's not always easy to start, but once you do, it helps to clear the fog. Finding that rhythm can make a difference. Just moving, even a little, can help when things feel heavy.
Antidepressants. They've helped me to find what I've been looking for my whole life. The middle. The highs are not so high, and the lows are no longer crippling. I'm not so sure recovering from depression is possible. My brain's chemicals are just wonky. For a $5 prescription every month, I've found normalcy. There is no need to be miserable. Don't worry about any stigma. You know more people than you think who are managing anxiety and depression this way.
It's interesting how something so simple, like a prescription, can really change your perspective. I have a friend who struggled for years but found some balance with medication. At first, they were hesitant about it, worried about what others would think. Over time, they realized that it was just a tool to help navigate life. Normalcy became a reachable goal, and that was a relief for them. It's about finding what works.
Light antidepressants and exercise. Lots of exercise. At first it was a chore and hard to get to the gym or out for a run, but I knew it helped me sleep. Almost immediately, I noticed more energy, and soon my family noticed a difference. It also helped offset the weight gain from the antidepressants. YMMV and consult a DR, but I firmly believe every depressed person should be on an exercise regimen.
It's interesting how something as simple as exercise can make a difference. I had a friend who struggled a lot. He was skeptical about the gym at first, but he started going regularly. Over time, he felt more energetic and his mood improved. It was cool to see how it positively impacted his life. Definitely a reminder that sometimes, just moving your body can help a lot.
In high school, I was depressed for a few months. My grades were down, my dad was not happy about it, and in swimming my times were getting worse. Until this day, I have crippling anxiety problems, so I did not have many friends. So I put on a face of happiness and pretended like everything was great. Till one day a kid who was historically known for being a loner and not talking to anyone walked up to me and asked me what was wrong. I told him nothing, and he said he knew something was up. I talked with him for 3 hours outside of school that day. I thank Victor every day because I was on the edge of doing something I could not take back.
It's tough dealing with those feelings, especially in school. When you're struggling, it can feel like no one sees you. Then there's that unexpected moment, like when Victor reached out. It's wild how a simple conversation can change everything. That support often comes from the most unlikely places. It's a reminder that sometimes, just being there for someone can make a real difference in their life.
Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.